Hello everyone, Christine McKee here from the Emerging Technology team. Today we are going to find our jam with Google Jamboard. Whether we're using Jamboard for inquiry or for student self-assessment or even for student demonstration of learning, there are so many ways we can use Jamboard in the classroom to enhance teaching, learning, and assessment. So let's get started with our overview of Jamboard. All right, now before we dive in to explore all of the creative tools Jamboard has to offer, let's take a look at how we can create a brand new Jamboard. So there are a couple of different ways that we can create a Jamboard. The first way I'm going to show you is through our Google Drive. So I've opened my Google Drive in another tab in my Google Chrome browser, and I've opened a folder where I wish to create my Jamboard in. I'm simply going to either right click or click on the new button in the left navigation and come down to hover over more to see more menu options. Here in the more menu options, I can see Google Jamboard. I can simply click Google Jamboard and I will be prompted to create, and because this is a shared folder, it asks me if I want to share it with the same people. So I'll click Create and Share. Notice that not only did it create a blank Jamboard, it also launched right into that blank Jamboard for me to start working. Now, as I mentioned, there's another way that we can create a brand new Jamboard. We can open a new tab and we can simply go to jamboard.google.com. Now, this is going to take us to the Google Jamboard dashboard view. And here you can see your recent jams. So Jamboards that you've been working on, that you've opened, that people have shared with you. So let's create a brand new Jamboard from this dashboard. I'm simply going to click on the plus new jam to get started. Now, keep in mind that yes, this jam is added to your dashboard, but it's also added to your Google Drive. So that's why I like to keep my Jamboards organized by launching them from Google Drive. That's just a pro tip. All right, let's dive in to building out content on our Jamboard. So the first thing we're going to do is take a look at the different features. Here along the top, we see what looks like slides. Let's go ahead and expand this. Slides in Google Jamboard are actually called frames. By default, it starts with one frame, but you can add more. If I'm in the collapsed view, I can simply click the arrow pointing to the right to create a new frame. And I can keep doing so up to 20 frames. So that's right, there is a limit of 20 frames that you can create. Now, one other thing you can do, instead of creating a brand new frame, I can expand the frame bar and I can hover over a frame and click the three dots and select duplicate. And that will duplicate whatever content I have on the frame to another frame. All right, let's collapse the frame bar and keep going. Notice below we have our main menu bar, and here I can zoom, I can set my background, and I can clear my frame. Let's go back to the first frame. I can set a background by clicking on Set Background. Now notice there are a few standards in place, but notice that you can also add an image as your background. Simply click the plus image button and notice that you can upload an image from your device. You can find an image by inserting a link. You can use your camera. This is an excellent option for students who are going to add pictures of work that they've created or produced physically on paper or on other materials. They can just select camera and then hold up that work. You can also do a Google image search or find something from your Google Drive. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to upload a sample of student work as my background. Give that a moment to load. All right, so now I have a sample of some grade 4 work about the water cycle set as my background. Now, if I needed to, I can also clear the frame. By clicking clear frame, it's going to delete or remove all content from this frame. All right, now let's take a look at our floating toolbar. This is where the magic really starts to happen. So what can I do here on this Jamboard? Well, there are so many different things you can do. Let's start from the bottom and work our way up. Notice that there is a text box. So I could add a text box to my Jamboard. Notice that I can resize. And if I actually click on this text box, notice I can click on the 3 dots and I can either edit, I can duplicate, or I can delete it. All right, let's continue on. Next we have shapes. Shapes can be incredibly handy if you are annotating a document, just like I've added a picture of a document here as my background. But shapes could also be very handy for subjects like math, where we could make manipulatives. All right, notice that if I select a shape, I can fill with a different color. I can even change the outline. Keep in mind that I can move these shapes anywhere on my page. So I mentioned before that this would be excellent for helping annotate or provide feedback on a document. Well, how I can do that is I can draw the shape, and in the fill, I can select transparent. And now notice that I just have the outline, and I can drag that to where I need to on the student work. Again, I could duplicate the text and bring it over here, and I could now add feedback about what I have selected. Let's take a look at the next tool on our toolbar. Our next tool is the Add or Insert Image. Let's click Add Image. Notice that I have a few choices. I can upload an image from my device by simply clicking Browse. And then we can find an image that's saved directly onto your device. Let's go ahead and add this image of a laptop, and that will load onto my Jamboard. Again, notice that I can select that image and I can resize it and move it around on my Jamboard. Okay, let's go back to adding an image. Another way I can add an image is by URL. So if I had a link to an image, I could paste that link here. Just make sure you are practicing good digital citizenship and you are using Creative Commons images only. In other words, images that you have the proper license to use. All right, notice that you also have access to the camera. This is a great tool if your student is maybe completing work on paper or creating other physical work that they can show. They can select camera and take a picture with their device of that work and then add that to their Jamboard. Another thing we can do is a Google image search. Here on the Google image search, notice that I can search for images. So let's go ahead and search for an image of the water cycle. And I can find the image that I'd like to use, and I can simply click on it and click Insert. Remember, I can move this image anywhere on my Jamboard. I can resize this image as well. All right, one more thing I want to show you with Google image search. Let's go ahead and search for an emoji, and I'm going to add in PNG. That way I get a transparent background with my image. I'll go ahead and click enter. All right, let's go ahead and use the thinking emoji. I'm going to simply select it and click insert. And now what I could do with this emoji is I could use it as a manipulative. So the easiest way to do that is I could click on the 3 dots here in the top right corner, and I could say duplicate, and I could duplicate this as many times as I need to. And then I could simply stack all the emojis. Then, if I was sharing this with a student and I wanted them to show, say, a multiplication sentence, they could simply select an emoji and drag, and notice that they have all of these emojis to work with. All right, let's go ahead and clear some of this off my screen. And I'm going to take you back to add image one more time, just to point out that we can also add an image directly from our Google Drive by selecting Google Drive and then finding the image. Notice that we can search in our Drive for the image to add to our Jamboard. All right, I'm going to close this. And before we move on, I'm going to take you to the next frame that I've added in my Jamboard, just to share some pro tips with you. When it comes to adding images, it's really easy to make a copy of an image by selecting the image and pressing Control-C on your keyboard. And then you can paste by pressing Control-V or duplicate by pressing Control-D. Let me show you with a Bitmoji. So I'm going to grab one of my Bitmojis and I'm going to drag it onto my Jamboard. And I'm simply going to press Control-C while it's selected and then Control-V, and notice that it added a copy onto my Jamboard. Now, instead of Control-C and Control-V, I could always just select and press Control-D and duplicate that Bitmoji as many times as I need to. Another incredible tool for adding text to a Jamboard is the colored sticky note found here on the toolbar. Let's just go back to the previous frame. Now, I could add a sticky note to provide feedback to my student for the work that's been added here. I simply click on sticky note and I can go ahead and type my message. All right, notice that once I've typed my message, I can also change the color of my sticky note, and I can go ahead and hit save, and that will add my sticky note to the Jamboard. Notice that the sticky note remains active, so I could go ahead and add another sticky note. Sticky notes are fantastic for our students to contribute their ideas during brainstorming, during the inquiry process, as well as adding feedback or self-assessment notes. There are so many ways we can use sticky notes to convey learning. All right, let's go ahead and hit cancel. Now keep in mind with the sticky note, I can select it, and just like any image, I can resize it. And of course, I can use my shortcuts, Control-D, to duplicate that sticky note. If I want to edit this second sticky note, I just double click on it. And then I could go ahead and change the color of the sticky note as well as change the content of the sticky note. And once you're finished, just click save. All right, the last tool we're going to take a look at in Jamboard is the pen tool, or the inking feature in Jamboard. Now let's talk about the inking feature here in Jamboard online on my laptop. So I'm going to click on the pen. And notice that I have a few different writing utensil options to choose from. I can choose from a pen, a marker, a highlighter, or even the brush tool. Let's go back to pen. Notice that I have 6 different colors to choose from, and I could use my mouse to start inking. Now I'm going to warn you, I am not the best at digital inking with my mouse. So I want to give you a pro tip. For inking in Jamboard, what I would recommend, if you can, is access your Jamboard from your mobile device. So I have an iPad here. That's my little secret. And I have my Apple Pencil. And so what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to use the inking tool or the pen tool here on my iPad in Jamboard to ink on this particular Jamboard. Now let's just go back a few frames. I want to ink up this student's work to provide feedback for them. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to expand the frame bar, and I'm actually going to duplicate this frame. So I'm going to click on the 3 dots and select duplicate. All right, let's go to that duplicated frame. Now, I'm going to go to that frame on my iPad, and I'm ready to start inking. So let's grab the highlighter tool, and let's highlight in blue. So I can simply start highlighting on the Jamboard, and you can see me inking, or in this case, highlighting in real time. Let's go ahead and grab the pen tool, and we'll change the ink back to, let's say, green, and I'm going to make a few notes here. Let's go ahead and circle evaporation and condensation, and I will say explain in your own words. All right, now a couple of things that I want to show you as part of the pro tip of inking on a mobile device like an iPad is when I click on the pen tools, I actually have more tools available to me. So let's just take a look here. Notice that I just have these 4 writing utensils and these 6 colors. But on the iPad, I have a menu called the Assistive Drawing Tools. And if I click down, I actually have inking text to typed text, as well as inking shape to snapped shape. Let me show you what I mean. So I'm going to select the text, and I'm going to start writing. And notice that it changed my handwriting to typed text. The same thing with shapes. Let's go back to the Assistive Drawing Tools on my mobile device, and I'll select the Shape tool, and I can try drawing a shape. And it snapped into a solid shape. That can be edited, of course. Finally, I also have a pen tool for drawing. So I can start doodling, and auto draw will try to match what I'm doodling. Let's just see. Let me try drawing a cat. Now, it might be hard to see, but on my iPad, at the very bottom, Google Jamboard is actually giving me suggestions of what might match what I just drew. Let me select one to show you what I mean. There we go. So my rough drawing of a cat has now been transformed into a better drawing or doodle of a cat. All right, now that we've gone through all of the tools and features of Google Jamboard, I hope you can see the power of this digital tool for teaching and assessment practice, as well as for student demonstration of learning and the inquiry process.